If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims. Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Douglas Mulhall.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes, I'm happy to have you. Let me share a little bit about Douglas. He co-founded the first biotech company to restore the elastic in arteries. That is so fascinating. The first water recycling institute in Brazil. Wow. And the most watched TV network in Ukraine. You really get around and are diverse in your entrepreneurial ventures and everything you get your hands on. It's incredible.
Well, there's actually a string running through it, though, and it's really healthiness. We can get even the TV network in Ukraine, which is called ICTV, by the way, and it's been broadcasting all the way through this terrible situation that they had there. But we started it to bring in environment and health programming into the satellites of the former Soviet Union. So all the way through my life, all of these ventures have really been directed at improving environmental health right down the line.
Well, that's wonderful. And also there's journalism, film making, podcasting, scientific institute management, executive training, technology research, award-winning healthy building design. I guess that gets into LEED building certified. Is that what that means?
No, actually, LEED was part of the problem for a long time.
Oh my gosh. I'd love to learn more about that.
They were focused so much on energy efficiency instead of healthy buildings, but I think we've righted that ship. It only took about 10 years, but I think they're well on the way to that now. So that's the good news.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll have to dive into that more because I think that's really interesting. So also developing global digital standards for healthy products. So Your first book, Our Molecular Future, was selected for New Scientist magazine's must-read list. So,
and you still in print 20 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, we were the first ones to talk about AI and 3D printing. And some of the critics said it sounded like science fiction.
Well, you're a futurist. You're a futurist, really.
Well, yeah, I don't like to apply that word in the sense that, we've been looking at the near future to see really what's in store, because we're never going to get to the far future that we can predict. It's really the near future, the next, we went out about 20 or 30 years. And now I think actually going out any more than 10 or 15 years is probably suicidal in terms of accuracy of predictions. Okay. Well, good to know. That's a good tip. Just go out 10 to 15 years. Yeah, I mean, all these people talking about, what the world's going to look like in 2050 and 2060. The rate of change is so fast; it's very, very difficult to tell that. That's for sure. But we'll get into a little bit of that in the show.
Okay, that sounds good. And I was wondering, do you have a side of you that believes as a humanity we co-create our future?
Oh, you know something? That's probably a topic for another show.
Okay.
That's definitely, that's what Our Molecular Future was all about.
Okay.
It was hundreds of pages. And I have to say that, a lot of the stuff that we forecasted rather than predicted, it's like the weather, you forecast the weather, you don't predict it. is coming true today, and it's spot on. We predicted in 20 years that AI would disrupt the world's economies, and we are right on target for that. So
Yes.
yes, we're the co-creators, but there's a very large oops factor involved in that. And
Mm, mm,
so yeah, it's a very serious issue right now. And like I say, I think we could probably spend another show on it, because it goes on and on and on and on.
interesting. Well, I'm glad I asked the question anyway, because I was just curious about your philosophy. Well, let's get into some of your points about longevity. Do you feel that everyone has hidden stress?
There's no doubt about it, and I'm not the one who's saying that. And for anyone who's watching or listening, it's really important that if you haven't been told about hidden stress, it's time to find out, because this is at once the greatest yet least known health challenge of our time. There is no question about it. And here's why. Especially in relationship to your show that focuses on sort of the Zen of success, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a little difficult to keep that calm Zen line going along on your pathway to success when underneath your body is going like this, which is exactly what's happening to all of us, because there are two specific types of hidden stress. You can't see, you can't smell. Sometimes you can see them, but we'll get into that in a moment. But basically, you don't feel their effects until quite a while after they have built up inside you. But all along that road, they are creating trouble. And those two specific forms of hidden stress are, first of all, toxic heavy metals. And when I say heavy metals, I mean metals such as lead, cadmium, and arsenic. The term heavy only means the scientific definition that they are 5 times more dense than water or more. That's the scientific definition. That's what a heavy metal is. A lot of people don't know that, and it doesn't really matter, but that's why they're called heavy metals. And they're in all of our products, and they have been in our environment ever since humans started to walk the earth. So that's the first one. And the second one.
Can I ask a question about that before you get into the second one?
Yeah, sure.
What about water? Are they in the water and air and food?
All of the above. And there's a very simple reason for that. And that is, they've been around since the earth was formed. Lead, cadmium, gadolinium, chromium, they've all been there, and they leach into our water systems. And when we invented or discovered fire for cooking and heating, and we got into those nice enclosed spaces with all that smoke caused by the fire that we did for thousands and thousands of years, and when we grew crops that took up nutrients from the soil, something else came along with the nutrients, and guess what it was? Heavy metals. So so crops tend to concentrate that, and the animals that we eat bioaccumulate it much worse than the grains and the other foods that just take it up from the soil. So every time you're eating an animal, you're eating highly accumulated metals. And this has been a monster in the closet waiting around for about 100 years, because there have been 100 years worth of studies on it.
I see.
And but it's very clear this stuff has been leaching into our water. It's been going into our grains, and it is in our air pollution simply because it's in wildfire smoke. All the wood that burns, wood uptakes heavy metals, and all those nice houses and cars that have burned up are just absolutely full of these heavy metals. So all during the wildfire events that have been around the world these days, serious heavy metal contamination, not to mention that all of our consumer electronics have got heavy metals in them. And when you heat them up, they off gas. So now that's sort of the downside of it. And we'll get into the positive side in a moment. But the point is, you definitely can't get away from it. What you can do is you can limit your exposure, and you can get rid of this stuff once it gets into you. So that's the sort of the metal part.
Oh, got it. I see. Yeah. So when you're talking about getting rid of it, I think of, do you know medical medium? Anthony Williams, he has a heavy metal detox that he recommends.
Yep.
He doesn't talk about it in a scientific term. So I never knew all this information, to be honest, that you're
Yep.
sharing now.
Yep.
But he thinks it's important for health to do a heavy metal detox regularly.
Yeah. And here's why. And he's not the only one, but he's a good one.
Yeah.
And I always celebrate the people that are, focusing on this topic, and there are a lot of them. And so, yes, that's exactly it. Now, here's why it's a problem. And here's why it's probably the biggest single health problem that we have that we don't know about. Number one, heavy metals start at birth. The exposure starts from the day that you're born, and it builds up inside you. Now, your body has certain capacities to get rid of it. It has developed enzymes over our evolution that actually grab these heavy metals, they chelate them, and they get them out of your body. But it has not been able to handle all of them. And so they keep building up as you get older. But the big problem with them is that, number one, according to the American Heart Association, low levels of exposure are a major cause of heart disease. This was just announced just a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's a result of 100 years of science and many clinical studies. And one of the reasons that they were able to confidently say this is that they've now found in clinical trials that when they get the metals out of these people, they get better. And that's now been proven in double-blinded, randomized clinical trials. So that's number one. They trigger heart disease, and I'm talking about all kinds of heart disease: hypertension that leads to heart disease, stroke, heart attack, you name it. They are all provoked by this, to the extent that a study just published in the leading clinical journal, The Lancet, concluded the impacts of low levels of heavy metals, especially lead, have been grossly underestimated, and lead is actually ahead of smoking and cholesterol as a leading cause of death in heart disease. So this is a real shocker. It just means that, we've got a very serious problem on our hands here. Let go of all the other stuff. It's not to say that it's not important. The other stuff, risk factors like, obesity and things like that, they're important,
of course,
but they are made much, much, much worse by this. So number one. Number two, they disrupt your DNA. Okay. They get next to it and they knock pieces off of your DNA. So number three, that leads to mutagenistic effects. So they mutate your cells.
The DNA in the cells. Okay.
That's correct. So it leads to cancer. And number four, it interferes with your neurons. Imagine that you have two live electric wires, which are your neurons, and you place a lead wire across them. What do you think happens? Short circuit, right? And that's exactly what's going on in all of our brains, to the extent that this study in the Lancet said that average IQ of children has declined because of this. That's how serious.
Interesting.
So we have a monster on our hands, and it is a little known monster in the closet. And the other interesting thing the reason I say it's a monster in the closet is because, again, the American Heart Association has said the vast majority of health providers do not know how to test for, diagnose, or treat low levels of toxic heavy metals. They simply don't. What they know how to do is to do blood tests for lead poisoning and for other heavy metal poisoning. Well, guess what?
It's not going to show up, right?
This stuff isn't in your blood. It's in your bones, and it's in the tissue in your veins and your arteries.
Ah, I see. So that's why they think people are not affected.
So we have this massive, exactly. You just hit the nail on the head. So we've got this massive undercurrent underneath of all of this contamination. And I'll just give you some examples. Consumer Reports just found in 2 studies that popular chocolates, baby foods, and snacks are contaminated with high levels of these heavy metals. Can you imagine? We are feeding heavy metals to babies. And by the way, the FDA has very few, if any, regulations related to this, even though they have been promising them for years and years. So if you think that the regulations are protecting you, they're not. You have to protect yourself. So that's a good example of how this stuff is really getting into our food chain, to the extent that very, very recently, a bunch of kids fell ill with lead poisoning from applesauce in plastic baby food pouches. They don't know yet if it came from the pouch or from the cinnamon that was in it, but the kids actually fell ill with lead. You know how much lead you have to get in you in order to get lead poisoning. So if that's happening, and there have been lots of studies that show that 60 or 70% of the consumer products that are coming into major markets like the EU have got too high levels of heavy metals in them that contravene the regulations. So we've got a massive regulatory failure. All these people being contaminated, healthcare providers not really knowing how to test for it, and it's not on the radar. And again, I'm not the one who's saying that. It's these studies, and the American Heart Association are saying it. And I just want to add that the chief author of the American Heart Association special statement on heavy metals wrote the foreword to my book.
Beautiful.
So there you go.
You have so much wisdom, and obviously you're in alignment with the medical professional that wrote the foreword. So that's incredible. I think that more and more people, we get the word out, are going to start to recognize this. I mean, there has to be a fundamental change in medical training, obviously, or new tests that need to be implemented. But I had a few questions about this. So you mentioned it was everywhere. So could it be like a cumulative effect? I mean, is it even in healthy foods? Or there's certain foods, canned foods, processed, that might have more?
Well, actually, the Consumer Reports, everyone should read their studies, because they show that there's a big difference between different brands. And so I would urge people to read those studies, because some brands have very high levels and some brands have very low levels. And what's really interesting is that there are some baby foods out there that actually are certified to be heavy metal free. So
they're even certified. Okay.
Yeah. Some people have got the message right, and we need to celebrate those people and call attention to them. So, yes.
Great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I didn't even know that they had those. I've never seen those labels. I mean, I'm not buying baby food. I used to make my own baby food for my kids. But so you think that's a little bit better, is making your own?
Well, what's really interesting is that they did a study of so-called homemade baby foods. They didn't differentiate with what ingredients they were made, but they found similar levels of contamination. So there's a couple lessons here before people jump off a cliff. And that is that, first of all, eat organic. That's number one. Number two, eat plant-based, because if you're eating animals, they're bioaccumulating this stuff before it gets to you. There's no question about that. So that's not a political
statement. Do you eat that
statement.
way? Are you plant-based? Okay, me too.
I'm totally plant-based and have been for many, many years. And you have to be plant-based also with organic, because the stuff that isn't really certified, reliably certified as organic, you're going to have an increased risk of still having heavy metal contamination due to pesticides, fertilizers, and the soil in which the plants are grown. So it's very important to have organic plant-based stuff going on.
Yeah, and that's great. That's a great tip. And also what I've noticed is that a lot of restaurants are not organic. So eating out, I mean, most restaurants, I'll just have to get real, are not organic. It's very rare to find an organic restaurant.
And what are they cooking the food in?
Yeah.
And what are they boiling the water in?
Mm-hmm.
There's a very low level of awareness in the restaurants about this. So right across the board, we're looking at, and thank you to your show, for bringing this up so people can really understand that this is a huge issue. This isn't like just another thing that we have to worry about. It
Yeah.
is the thing that has been affecting, it's been putting a glass ceiling on the upper limit of life,
Hmm.
because the very old, what they call the supercentenarians, when they die because they all turn to stone. Their arteries turn to stone and they creak to a halt, with all of them, without exception. That is because the body is trying to wall off the damage that is done by these metals and by other things. And we never got to mention the second thing,
I
which
know.
is,
I'm still
you
have
know,
that in my mind,
that's low level infection, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
So,
Okay. We'll get
so,
to that in a
so
minute.
all of these people who are, hitting that upper limit are all affected by this, because we've got this bioaccumulation of these
Hmm.
metals in us. So imagine what would happen to chronic disease and human longevity if we were able to get rid of these metals and prevent them from getting into us. We'll never prevent
Yeah.
them from totally getting into us, but we
Right.
can get them out. And so we've got a whole armory of tools at our disposal, whether it's the right kinds of foods,
Hmm.
or the air quality in your home where people spend
Hmm.
85% of their lives, or the therapies that are available. And these are some
Okay.
of the things that, I talk about in the book.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm wondering if there's simple things that we can do to detox as well. For example, a sauna or exercise. If we sweat, is that actually getting out heavy metals?
The heavy metals will come out in sweat, but they're not, they're embedded in your bone and your tissue.
So
And
yeah,
so
that's why they can't
it's
come out
yeah,
with that.
it's not a big deal. Having said that, in order to combat the damage that is done by heavy metals, doing all these things that people have been talking about, and I don't focus too much on that in the book, because I don't want to repeat what other people have said.
I see.
Caldwell Esselstyn has done the plant-based stuff. I don't have to do it again. So I just refer, to him. I don't pretend to have a monopoly on all the things that are good for you. So
Yeah.
I say, yes, do all the stuff that these plant-based people and exercise people and everyone are talking about. Yeah, it's really good for you. But on top of that, what you can do is, for example, look at the kinds of foods that actually promote the enzymes in your body to get rid of this stuff. Cruciferous vegetables, for example, curcumin is a very interesting
Mm.
chelator, and broccoli sprouts
Okay,
are
just
very interesting
pausing
chelators. Sure.
for a moment, just for our audience who might not know, curcumin is a derivative of turmeric, a very healthy spice frequently found in Indian food.
Correct.
So,
Also known as coriander.
coriander. Okay, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you recommend people taking a supplement or putting it in their food? Like, what do you recommend for these
Okay.
foods?
Right.
Yeah.
So the supplement issue is as follows. First of all, my expertise has been for the past many years working with designers and builders to keep these heavy metals out of products, or at least away from people. And I've been managing the scientists who are, in my opinion, some of the world's top experts in these heavy metals, to the extent they've developed a certification that has actually been recognized by the US EPA as one of the leading certifications to produce healthy products and buildings. So I'm not a physician. And the interesting thing is that most healthcare experts actually aren't trained in this type of toxicology. The
Hmm.
type of toxicology that they're trained in, and then I'll get back to your question, is drug toxicology, the interaction between drugs. But this is something completely different. They're not trained in how to keep heavy metals away from people, or how to treat them for it. So then when you get back to the supplements, that's why I don't sort of recommend things on a medical level to people. I just
Yeah.
tell them what other people are doing and what I have done. So what I have done is I have taken an oral nutraceutical supplement that is a combination of a chelator and anti-inflammatory nutraceuticals. And that is actually similar, but not identical to the combination that is used in IV chelation as well, where that they put a needle in your arm, you go to the doctor's office for once a week, and it starts to clean you out, but it takes quite a while. If you don't like having a needle in your arm for a few hours a week, like I don't, you will do the oral because it's more convenient, and it can be just as effective. And for those who just said, I'm going to turn off this show because of this word chelation, I just wanted to emphasize that the effectiveness of chelation in reversing the impacts of cardiovascular disease have been proven in a double-blinded randomized clinical trial sponsored by the National Institutes of Health for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And any medical professional who tells you that chelation is dangerous and doesn't work is 10 years behind the times. Between 2008 and 2015, an extensive $35 million study was done that proved that, get this, in diabetics with heart disease, the all causes of death, not just from heart disease, were reduced by 41%. Now, if I was a drug company, I would be salivating over these, because drug companies, you get marginal results and it's on the market,
Yep.
This is a really stunning result, to the extent that the FDA said, look, we have to do another clinical trial that focuses only on diabetic heart patients. So if you've got diabetes, listen to this. And those results started in 2017, and they're being unblinded this year. So we're looking forward to seeing these results. So this is all really exciting stuff. So anyone who says that this word chelation is a dirty word is way out of the scientific loop.
And what is chelation?
Chelation is actually the Greek word to chelate, is to claw. So it's a chemical claw that actually grabs the metal in your bone and in your tissue and takes it out, and you pee it out. So that's actually how chelation works. It combines chemically with these metals, and out it goes. But as you can imagine, because they've been built up all your life, it does take some time. It can take the clinical trials were run for 40 weeks. And what's really interesting is, after they finished the clinical trials, they discovered that if you just throw out the blood tests, but you do a baseline urine test, from the baseline urine test, they are able to predict how many heavy metals will come out of you when you go through this regimen. It's a tiny little detail that's hidden in the studies. And actually, Dr. Lamas, who's the purveyor of the study, drew it to my attention. They discovered this in 2017. So there actually are ways to predict how much of this stuff is going to come out of you. And it was verified in some of these clinical studies.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just thinking about my own healing journey. In 2020, I was diagnosed with cancer. And one of the things I decided to do was to do a detox, a systematic detox of the organs of my body. And I'm wondering if that did it. Of course, I did other things as well. I did spiritual healing, and I did many other things. And I also did IVs. I'm wondering, just like hearing you talk, I'm wondering if that was part of the cause, and if detoxifying is a major solution that can really help people.
Carissa, let me say this. And people really, I hope they listen to this very carefully. Heavy metals at low levels turn your immune system against you, period. Okay, so that's really
like autoimmune disease.
It isn't, but we all have this autoimmune disease because these metals are turning this stuff against us at an imperceptible level until we end up with things like cancer and heart disease. So it's building up, and it's reducing your immunity. What happens is this. So the heavy metals cause all these reactions that I spoke with earlier. And when they do that, it's funny. the human immune system is built to get you out of trouble in the short run, as a very famous scientist who I work with told me. But it's lousy at protecting you in the long run. It hasn't figured that out, because actually Homo sapiens are a very young species. We've only been around for a few 100,000 years compared to whales that have been around for millions of years. And some of them live to be 250 or 300 years, and some variety of sharks. So the higher animals that have a very strong thought process live like, 3 times longer than we do, or 4 times longer than we do. So their immune systems over the millions of years have figured out how to deal with this stuff, but our immune system hasn't evolved to that point yet. And the result of that is that the stuff it uses, which is called, guess what? Inflammation to get you out of trouble in the short run, clean up damaged tissue so that new tissue can be developed, turns against you in the long run, because the inflammation becomes chronic when the metals are not dispelled from your body, because the inflammation can't do it. The result is you end up with chronic inflammation and an autoimmune response to yourself. So actually, these heavy metals are turning our bodies slowly against us. So for yourself, when you were diagnosed with cancer, you're not going to get better real fast if your body is busy fighting itself. That's for sure. So did the metals cause this? Well, who knows? But
of course,
are the metals turning your body against you? No doubt about it. No question.
Interesting. Okay, now let's get to the second one.
Low-grade infection.
Low-grade infection. Okay, yeah. And so what does that appear like? Does it appear to be like a virus, a cold, a different disease?
All the above.
Okay.
But it's pretty common stuff. It's just that our diagnostics aren't designed to detect it. So I'll give you a good example, or we just don't test for it. So one of the reasons you're told to floss is because of this nasty little bacterium called, gingivitis that causes bad breath, but has also been found in 100% of all Alzheimer's patients. Now, it is either opportunistic or causative, or both. A preliminary study showed that when pre-Alzheimer's patients were treated for gingivitis, their cognitive abilities improved. This is pre-Alzheimer's, and it was just a preliminary clinical study, but it was, it has showed, it's very recent, and it has shown some really important results. Now, people familiar with Alzheimer's say, oh yeah, we've heard about all these infections before, but there's no sort of smoking gun. And yes, they're opportunistic, that's for sure. But we can't say this. But, and here's the big but. And Carissa, you know this better than anyone else. Your gut biome, all of that bacteria that's in your gut, is closely related to all of these low-level infections in your body. 99% of your gut biome is good for you, and 1% is really bad for you. And that migrates, and it has now been closely connected, for example, with cardiovascular disease. Because this stuff escapes your gut, gets into your vascular system. And, people have been told for years that healthy blood is sterile. Nonsense. That the studies have clearly shown that this is nonsense. Your blood is actually full of viruses and bacteria, most of which are very, are good for you, or are benign.
Them. Yeah.
But so these low-level infections are there. And what's happening is they're very clever, especially the viruses. They have learned how to disguise themselves from the immune system. So they disguise themselves in these tiny little vesicles that actually cells used to communicate with each other. There's trillions and trillions of them in your body every moment of every day, governing your body's business. They're programmed packages, like FedEx packages, and they're full of programmed proteins. And they go and tell other cells what to do. Well, guess what? Viruses hijack them. And they get inside them, and the body, the cell accepts them because, hey, it's a vesicle. This is the stuff that programs me, so it lets it in the door, and that's how viruses replicate. So These certain types of bacteria have learned how to disguise themselves from the immune system. And when they do that, they disguise themselves from our medical diagnostics.
Oh, I
And
see.
so this is why this is another tsunami that is washing over us, that is causing a lot of trouble that we just, aren't familiar with, and that the medical profession hasn't been paying much attention to. Now,
It's
when you
true.
take,
I just want to tell you, I have had friends tell me that that is their diagnosis, a low level infection. So this has
correct.
been coming up actually in my field and with my friends. So it's just, I'm learning a lot from you.
Yeah, and it's like, when you get, sorry to gross people out, but when you get fungal infections, a lot of people get fungal infections in their toes, right?
Mm,
That's not just in your toes. That's a systemic infection.
that's everywhere.
That's right. And that's why it's
Luckily,
so
I've never
darn
had
difficult.
that. That
Yeah,
sounds gross,
well,
but
it's so difficult to get rid of. A lot of runners get it, especially if they don't wash their running shoes and stuff like that.
uh-huh.
So, and it's really a nightmare to get rid of it,
Mm,
and the treatments for it are only about 15 or 20% effective. So
hmm.
that's another example of how these low-grade infections evade the immune system and
Yeah.
evade therapy. So when you put those two things together,
Yeah.
and this is exactly what the book is about.
And
I
just say
don't,
those two things again.
yeah, it's heavy metals at low levels of exposure and infections at low grade levels
Okay.
that evade the immune system. And when you put them together, you've got something called total stress load.
Mm,
And total stress load is so new that there is no standardized methodology for actually quantifying it. So it's been up to the naturopathic doctors and the holistic cardiologists to actually develop a scale that is used for calculating this. It's a very young science.
I see.
And that again is one of the things that I cover in the book. But the exciting thing about it is we're finally starting to get there. And with AI, if I can come back to our favorite
Yeah.
topic that we talked about at the top, this is going to be hugely helpful because
Mm.
AI can predict things like biodistribution and the
Oh, so
combined.
you can use the AI for research.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely. And you can use it to diagnose patients. It's being used today.
Hmm.
So if you say, okay, this patient has this, and that, what are the cumulative effects? And you're going to get chances are you're going to get a more accurate answer from a qualified AI algorithm than you are from a toxicologist. This is clear.
Sorry, doctors. But
Well,
I love that you're using this technology for good, that you're showing that this is the power of this. As humans, we can
yeah,
utilize AI to
yeah,
advance our society and be healthier.
yeah. And one thing is, I'd never blame the doctors. Don't blame your doctor for not
Yes,
knowing this
of
stuff,
course.
because they're stuck in a sick care system that we all created. I mean,
Yeah, we're part of it. Hmm.
after the Depression and after World War II, we demanded drugs to keep us going. It didn't really matter if they made us really better, but just to keep us going. That was the war generation, and presto, they got it, and we ended up with a symptom treating sick care industry that has become a monster on its own. So it's not the doctor's fault. They're just
Yeah.
trained in that system. But it's time to change that system. And it is changing, but it's not changing fast enough.
Well, it's interesting because that you say that. That's so insightful because I'm thinking about homeopathy and natural remedies that grandmothers used to implement and just simple things or like
Yeah.
European and Chinese medicine,
Yeah.
medical
And here,
prevention. I
exactly.
mean, there's so much knowledge that we can use from our past to go back to.
And here's what's interesting about that. I'm glad you mentioned it. If you say that to a physician who's offering you standard care, the standard response will be not proven in clinical trials. And the answer to that is false. That was
Oh,
true.
really?
Yes, that was true 5 years ago. Okay. No, very few nutraceuticals, very few homeopathic remedies, very little Chinese medicine had ever been tried in clinical trials. All you need to do is go to clinicaltrials.gov and put in nutraceuticals and see what you come up with, because you'll get hundreds of studies that have actually now are actively looking into this and have produced results. So again, here we call this the tomato effect, which I can tell you about sometime. The problem is that our system is years behind the science, for good reason, because they want to make sure that it's safe. But in these cases, it's actually working against us, because the clinical trial results are indeed there, but the people who are taking medical training are so busy trying to keep a creaking, collapsing medical system from falling around their ears that they don't even have the time to get up to date. My doctor, I tell her stuff and she goes, "What, really?" I mean, no, and it's because they don't have time to go back and do all of this training.
Yeah.
So we need a new way to approach this. The difference between, what they say, young doctors and old lawyers, and there's a reason for that, because I know a young doctor here who's working in the military, and he's familiar with a lot of this stuff, but he still tells me, he says, "Doug, we didn't take any environmental health training." And that's relatively recent, even though his background is actually in toxicology and environmental health. But he did that on his own before he got into
I
medical
see.
school. Yeah.
Oh my
So there
God,
you
that's
have it.
brilliant.
Yeah.
What
And,
an education. What
yeah,
an
and
educational path that could be a better path for
yes.
people wanting to become doctors today. We did
Yes.
it. We figured it out.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is, in the military personnel, anyone who's listening to this program and knows anyone in the military, there's a new study that's come out that's shown that military personnel are highly exposed to and likely contaminated with heavy metals because of firearms. So whether that's artillery or handguns, because firearms, when they discharge, that big puff of smoke that comes out the muzzle? Well, that big puff of smoke isn't just the gunpowder going off. That contains the fragments from the projectile, and especially lead. And that's why most shooting ranges are contaminated with lead. It's not the projectiles that are contaminating them. Well, they do, but it's the smoke, and you're breathing that stuff. So any military personnel who, and by the way, again, this isn't me that's saying this is a published study, who are extensively using weapons, big or small, are going to be exposed to this. They're also exposed to it during combat. They're also exposed to it when they're in a tank or a naval ship or an enclosed area. So the military, and guess what? That is a big reason why a lot of service people are coming down with these inexplicable illnesses, and they do the metal poisoning tests, but they're doing the blood tests. It's time to change that.
Yeah. And they've found metal toxicity in vaccines as well. I mean, some more than others, some vaccines that might be expired, or, I mean, that could be a whole nother discussion, but I have heard the load of that is also cumulative.
Yeah, except I try and stay away from that, because there was a big scandal many years ago where one of the, I think I could be wrong on this, I think it was the polio vaccine, had contamination with heavy metals.
Oh yeah.
With the COVID vaccines, they watch for that, even though there's claims of it. The claims I've never seen them in any peer-reviewed published literature, although a couple of politicians are screaming about it. The reason I stay away from it is we've got enough to worry about with baby food being contaminated by heavy metals.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk solutions. So are there more? So you've done a lot of work with the building. So tell me about that work, and how that helps keep us safe.
This is one of the best things that people can do for their kids and their families. Very simple. People spend 85% of their time, their lives, indoors, either in their house, their car, or their office. 85%. So when you're talking about the impacts of the environment on you, which environment are you talking about? You're not talking about the stuff out there.
Because mainly you're inside. Yeah.
It's in here. So the air that you're breathing and the water that you're drinking is coming from the building that you're in. It's coming through the pipes, it's coming through the air ducts. And yes, it's coming from the outside, but it's building up inside because of energy efficiency. We've walled off and sealed all of our buildings to the extent that indoor air quality, including in schools, can be up to 8 times worse than outdoor air quality. And a lot of that is these nanoparticulates and microparticulates that have these heavy metals connected to them. So the thing to know is that the filters that are in air conditioners, furnace filters, and all the other filters that are in all of this equipment are not designed to protect your lungs. They're designed to protect the machinery from getting gummed up. So actually, the PM 2.5, that's just a technical term for very, very small microparticles that cross the lung barrier into the blood, are contaminated with heavy metals. So you want to get filters in your aircon and your air handling systems that get that stuff out. That's one of the best things that you can do for your family and your kids. Go to any Home Depot or call your air conditioning service people and say, give me a HEPA quality filter, one that doesn't screw up my air conditioning system, please. And tell me how often I should change it. Where we live, I'm pretty fortunate because we don't really have that much. We're not in the city here. If you're in a city, you're going to be wanting to change out those filters quite regularly. And after a wildfire event, you need to change all your filters and the filters in your vacuum cleaners as well, for sure.
Okay, so HEPA, that's the key word, and that gets the particles, the nanoparticles.
Or HEPA-like, so HEPA is, a HEPA filter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wonderful. So that's been your work and consulting and helping these buildings be healthier for people.
That's a tiny part of it, if you can imagine it, because we also focus on the materials, because guess what?
Oh, great.
This shirt is 100% cotton, but it's not. It's 80% cotton and it's 20% colorants, antioxidants, surfactants, and all kinds of other things that make the cotton durable. And guess what? There's toxins. There can be toxins unless the shirt, like this one is certified to be organic. So even the clothes that we're wearing have got this issue. So that's why these certifications become so important. And that's why we work with everything from textiles to carpets. We have co-developed carpets that clean the air. It's a really fantastic thing.
Wow.
And to be clear, these have made a lot of money for companies. This isn't like, one of the big problems with environment is that it's always seen as a cost. Well, the company that we worked with to develop the carpet that cleaned the air actually was sold for 8 times its original investment value because of this carpet that cleaned the air. It was their flagship product. So don't tell me, I don't want to hear from anybody how expensive it is to save the environment. This is nonsense. Mm-hmm. You just have to think the right way, and actually you can make money with it. So that's what we help companies and governments to do. With governments, we've worked with city halls and schools to produce healthy buildings that have 4 or 5 measurable quantifiers connected to them, according to something that's known as the WELL certification standard, WELL, which is coming online around North America and Europe and China. And by the way, a lot of these...
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. WELL, WELL, and another one called Fitwell. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the stuff behind it has come out of China, because the Chinese have this huge pollution problem. So they actually developed some of these methods, and then they've made their way. So, this stuff about the Chinese spying on us, actually, China's done some really good things for the environment, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And these standards, the science behind them, is one of those things. So let's not throw China out the window completely when we're complaining about trade.
Yes, I
Some
agree.
people won't want to hear me say that, but that's the reality. You can't just sweep the whole thing away like that.
Yeah, and
there's
also
a lot of junk that comes in from China too. There's no question about it. But in this case, it's been good. So we need to be more diligent on the testing and the certification. And when I say that, I want to emphasize one thing. We're never going to get anywhere in this world by continually trying to ban single chemicals and things like that. And here's why. You spend 5 years studying them, 5 years trying to ban them, and 5 years trying to enforce them. In that 15 years, 100,000 new chemicals have come on the market.
Oh my gosh.
So we're falling farther and farther behind with this system of banning single chemicals. It doesn't work. It's a failure, please. And the banning is actually salad dressing on top of greenwashing. What we need to be doing is promoting healthy materials and healthy products, because you need a lot fewer of them to make most products. So whereas we've got, hundreds of thousands of potentially nasty products out there, we made healthy, durable, and compostable textiles with 16 chemicals.
Oh, wow.
Working with one of the world's largest chemicals companies. So
great.
They were just, the textiles company was astonishingly happy because it reduced their load, it reduced their supply chain, and they were able to turn the clippings from their textiles from toxic waste into compost for farmers in Switzerland, which is a very strict regulatory environment. So again, don't talk to me about how expensive it is to protect the environment. We've just
that's old school thinking.
Yeah, we've been looking down the wrong side of the barrel.
I see. Yeah. Sure. They just need to work with you as a consultant to see the abundance and the sustainability within that.
And also my partners and I have published a free booklet on this. Like the book that we've been talking about on the heavy metals is called Discovering the Nature of Longevity, but the book about healthy buildings is called Creating Buildings with Positive Impacts, and it's free. You can download it. It's been around for 4 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yep. Do you have a list of Douglas's products that you've worked on or that you recommend to help us? Maybe you need.
No, I don't.
You needed an affiliate program fee, so because I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to suck all this information out of you, and thinking about also skincare and hair and and I'm just thinking of oh my God, what do I buy? So
well, there's two companies that I've worked with, and one of them actually developed the certification. Is called EPEA. And that was a joke on the US EPA because they're an enforcement agency. So we call ourselves the Environmental Protection Encouragement Agency.
Sorry. Oh my God, it's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's called EPEA, and it's actually based in Hamburg, Germany, and in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. I've been working with them for many, many years. They're a great organization, and they do actually have examples of all the stuff I've worked on with my colleagues who did all the scientific work. Credit to them for sure. And so, people can go to the EPA website. And the other one is Positive Impact, which is based in Luxembourg. And they do a lot of work on buildings and on developing this standard, this global standard that you mentioned at the beginning. It's amazing. There is no globally recognized standard for describing the environmentally beneficial characteristics of products. Can you believe that? There's environmental product declarations. There's about 50 different standards, and none of them are globally accepted. It's really interesting. And that's what we're doing right now with the International Organization for Standardization. And this is in process today. We've been working on it for the past 3 years.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, that you're a leader in that. So just a few more questions. What is Zen success to you?
Zen success is taking responsibility for your own health and being brave enough to look where other people don't. And taking responsibility for your health is the most Zen thing that you can do, so that you can discover these hidden stresses and learn what to do about it.
Wonderful. Well, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you, picking your brain, hearing about your incredible research and books and your wisdom on longevity. I'll put your website and how to buy your books in the show notes. So thank you for being on my show today, Douglas.
Carissa, it has been great. I want to thank you for doing this, because this is the only way that people are actually going to hear about this. And maybe next time we'll do something on the elastic of life, which drives every breath you take and every step you make. It's really exciting stuff.
Okay, that would be great. I'd love that. Thanks so much, Douglas.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey, and join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.